Hey, this is Eric with Request Metrics, and today we're going to talk about Largest Contentful Paint, or LCP, and what that means for your website. Largest Contentful Paint is a core web vital from Google that measures how long it takes for the biggest piece of content to load on your site. And since it's a core web vital from Google, it can impact your SEO ranking if it's not optimal. Here we are inside the Request Metrics dashboard, and we can see that the core web vitals are front and center across the top row here. We can see that the LCP, or Largest Contentful Paint, for our site that we're looking at here is 1.7 seconds, which is really pretty good. But we can, of course, investigate further by either clicking Investigate LCP or clicking on the LCP tab over here in the submenu. So here we've dug into the Largest Contentful Paint for this site. And like most Request Metrics screens, we've got an over time chart that'll show you that metric, in this case LCP, over time to see if you're improving or getting worse. We've also got a histogram that will bucket all of your values so you can kind of see where is your distribution lying. And in our case, it's pretty good here. Although the 95th percentile LCP is a little bit concerning. But probably the most important section of this page is actually this data table. And this data table has three sections. The first tab is all of the URLs for your site broken down by LCP. So you can see what the LCP is for each URL and whether it's good or bad and kind of help inform you whether you need to investigate. But LCP has two other critical pieces. So measuring it is important, of course, but so is fixing it. In order to fix it, we have what's called attribution. And there are two different kinds of attribution when it comes to LCP. The first is what we call URL attribution. And so across the entire site, this is all of the URLs that caused the LCP when it occurred. And typically these are images. But you can see here, we have a list of what looks like mainly images, but I can go to any one of these I'll just grab this guy, right? Boom. So this particular image was the cause of 1.7K Largest Contentful Paints, right? But along with the URL that caused the problem, we also have the element on the page that caused the problem. So this is a CSS selector that will actually get you to the element on the page that caused the issue. Now, oftentimes, that's one-to-one with an image or a URL of some kind, but not always. In the case of many single-page applications, you might have an element that draws a lot of HTML content that causes Largest Contentful Paint. So it's useful to have both of these. But of course, like all Request Metrics data, we can drill in further. So we can drill into any one of these we want. For example, if we wanted to find out more about that HTTP cache checker image, we can click here, which will actually bring us to a page where we can see everything about LCP related to that image. Right? And we can see what page is it on. In this case, it's only on the HTTP cache checker page. But if you've got a logo or a banner image that's across many pages, you'll get to see which ones are the most common. Of course, we can go back and we can look by URL too. I noticed earlier that the root page here has a somewhat concerning P95 for LCP. Now, you can drill in, like always, and we'll do that in just a second. But we've also got these great flyouts. So if you just want to kind of look around without doing too much investigation, you can click this button, and it will actually give you kind of a summary for the LCP analysis for that URL. So we can see we have a histogram at top. We have the number one element attribution for that particular URL. So this is the element that most commonly caused LCP. And we also have a URL attribution. So this is the image mostly that caused LCP. And so here we can see that, 51% of the time it was this SVG here. And we've got some other things too, like the element render delay and URL load time if you want to get really deep. But let's go ahead and click in here and we can see what's going on. So you can see that on the root page, we've actually got a number of different elements and URLs that are causing the problem. And this is super useful so that you can kind of get an idea of where would I start first. So the Launch Console 2 SVG in this case is potentially a problem. But if we scroll down here, we'll see the recent page loads again. And when we were investigating page load before, we saw that this column was the load for each page load. But now, because we're looking at LCP, this column has switched. And so we can investigate, hey, what is going on? And I noticed this one particularly. This was a 6.5 second LCP. So let's just see what we can learn about it. Now, the very first thing that sticks out is everything is slow. We've got a slow cellular connection with gnarly latency, right? So that's going to be a problem. It's probably an older Android phone. But we can look down and we can see in our page waterfall, we can see an expanded Largest Contentful Paint. So when you drill into a page looking for LCP, we'll pre-open that section and kind of collapse everything else around it. So here we can see it was the dots.png image that caused it in this particular case. Now, we're rolling up a lot of things that happened here. So if I click on this, now you can see all of the different things that occurred prior to this. And actually right here is the loading of that dots.png. And so we can see right after this loads, we've got this green line that corresponds to the LCP. And so we can figure out, okay, hey, this guy was the problem. But when we look, we can say, okay, well, who is the URL? Okay, it was dots.png. Well, this guy only causes Largest Contentful Paint on 15% of page loads to that URL. So it's the third most common problem. So maybe it's not the first place we want to start. Anyways, the sky's the limit. You can do all sorts of slicing and dicing and deep dives into Largest Contentful Paint and the URLs and elements that cause it.